Hey there and welcome back to Cosmic Crypto. In this video we're going to be going over Ravencoin, RVN. I've got some good news and some bad news. Let's go. Okay, welcome back to the channel. If you're not already subscribed to the channel, please go down and hit that subscribe button. Really appreciate that. I've got some affiliate links down below if you want to help support the channel. You can get some free money if you deposit money into some of the exchanges down below like MEXC and Femex and Bybit. And if you are interested in using the software that I'm using here, TradingView, you can find a link down below. And if you sign up, you get $30 and I get $30. So we both win. All right, I'm going to start us off on the weekly time frame. I got a couple of things here that I was looking at and just kind of wanted to study this chart a little bit better. And I got some interesting theories here coming out. So just to kind of rehash on what I've been talking about here, we're in this triangle is what I think that we're in, okay? And I'll get to some of these lines here in a minute, have been, we got some bottom touch points, we got top touch points, and we just recently created our newest top touch point over here, around 7 to 8 cents roughly, right in the middle. And we've come back down, and we are right now just about to retest the 786 line. So we basically got a giant wick all the way down to the 382. The 382 held us down, and then we broke through the 382. Or actually, yeah, we broke through the 382 and the 5, and then we finally broke through the 618 this last week. And now, like I've been saying in my videos and in my Twitter, is that I do think we're coming down to the 786, and we are awfully close. And what I'm hoping for is a touch off this 786 and then a big push to the upside. And the reason why I am thinking this, and it doesn't have to be this week actually, I'd prefer it if it was, but it doesn't have to be. We can hang out down here, then get a big push next week to the upside as well. There's a couple things that I'm thinking here. So we are in a big W pattern right now, and a W pattern is known to have two bottoms, creating a W, and it'll break out, and then it'll come back down to retest, usually around the center of the pattern, which is right here. So now we've already broken through that. I was hoping we were going to hold it with the 618. So we've already broken through that, so that's kind of not good. That's why I'd really like to see this candle right here get back above the 618, which would be a really good retest for this W pattern. Now the W pattern has a price target of roughly 9 cents, 9.5 cents. But what that does more importantly, besides getting us to 9.5 cents, is it breaks us out of this long-term trend line that we've been getting rejected off of all the way since back in February 15th, 2021. So it's been a while since we've been down here. That also brings us, disconnected. That also brings us right around to this resistance level here. So if I took line, I mean, it almost lines up perfectly. So it would give us a breakout, line up perfectly with this previous support, turned resistance, and probably going to be resistance again, to be honest. If we do break out up there, we'll get resistance, and then we'd probably come back down and retest the top of this line for a couple of weeks. The other reason why I think that the 786 needs to hold is because if you go back here, there's a lot of similarities. So if we look back in the past, before we had this massive run-up, we created a double bottom, just like we're doing right now. So here's the first bottom, here's the second bottom, and we had a breakout, and then we came back down in 1 week. We came back down and retested the 786 right here and shot all the way back up. And then we went sideways for a week, and then we had a big push to the upside. The other thing that's really interesting in this whole scenario is the RSI. So the RSI back on the first bottom broke above the moving average, okay, on the RSI. Then we came back down to retest it on the second bottom. And then we broke above the 50, which was right here, and then we, the finishing of this W pattern. Then we came back down to retest the W pattern, which is when we're above the 50, we kind of came back down to retest the 50. Not really. It was extremely bullish, so we didn't come down very far. But then we went on for a massive run. And if you go over here, we broke above the moving average around the first bottom. Then we came back down to retest the moving average, and we broke out. And now we're coming back down, and we are actually right now below the 50, which is why I'd really like to see a big push to the upside here with this week. We've got 4 days, 17 hours left, and if we can get that big push, that'll probably push the RSI up a little bit as well. One more thing to look at is the braid filter here is mostly in the gray for these last few weeks on the weekly time frame. Up until the breakout over here, we were mostly in the gray, or at least not very big green on the histogram. It was mostly gray. And then finally, after we retested that 786, we started to get the big green histogram, and we started to make our big move to the upside. And everything seems to be lining up pretty good for this move to happen, but I was thinking about it, and so that is all good news. If it were to play out that way. The bad news that I am kind of coming up with right now is if you go to, what's his name? Volkowski, who, you know, he was talking about, I don't know who he is actually, honestly. Somebody was talking about symmetrical triangles, some big name that tested these patterns for, you know, long time. And came out with a book on chart patterns and all this other stuff. And so if you're really interested in patterns, you want to look up Volkowski on chart patterns. And anyway, if you look up the symmetrical triangle, which is what we're in, the symmetrical triangle says that 60% of the time you'll get a breakout to the upside. Okay, so that's good, and that's above 50%. But it also says that usually that breakout happens 74% of the way into the triangle. So what I did is I did some math, and I started us on the top of this triangle right here. This is where I consider the beginning of this triangle, actually, even though we did start back here with some touch points. I'm going to consider this because there is no other touch point going to the top back here. So starting from this candle here on February 15th, 2021, if you come across right here on January 16th is 74% of the way. Now, what's really interesting about that, that I thought, was this price target I have here, this yellow arrow that I've got going up. I never touched this arrow. This arrow's been here in almost all my videos. It's been here for quite a while. I've left it on here, and what is very interesting is when I put this line here, the green line, which represents 74% of the move, it lined up perfectly with where I had this arrow, which, you know, coincidence? Sure, possibly. But what also made that interesting, and the reason why I have this arrow here in this specific spot, I didn't get the 74% earlier in any of my videos. This is recent. So the reason why I have this arrow here in this specific spot is because if you take your Fibonacci and you go from top to bottom, I put it in this spot because the arrow lined up perfectly with the 1618 Fibonacci, which is where I think would be the top of this breakout, the top move, the most bullish move you can get out of Ravencoin would be at the top right up here, and that's around $1.60. And so I just found it kind of odd that I had put this arrow here, and that is exactly where 74% of the triangle is, which leads us to the bad news. Some more bad news is this breakout, if it were to happen at 74% of the triangle, and it did go the 60% to the upside, which Volkowski says it would, that leads us to January 16th of 2023 before we even break out. Basically, we'd get our next test of this resistance up here on around January 16th of 2023. And then what's even more bad news, I guess, it's not really bad news, but it's just, if you're impatient, it's bad news. What would happen after the breakout is we'd get above on that date, let's just say, we'd come back down and we'd retest probably a couple times, and then we'd make our way up very slowly, you know, possibly get another down here, moving up, and then finally, eventually, you know, we'd come up to that $1.60 range. And I mean, even if what I put on here played out which, you know, who knows? I'm just drawing lines. That puts us all the way to April 1st of 2024. So not only do we have a few months before we even see a breakout happening, but we have not until 2024, possibly 2025, or who knows when, before we actually were to reach my price target of $1.60. Now, I had put out a video previously about stating, you know, October 17th, we'd get to 60 cents. My 60 cents price target is, reason why I have it at 60 cents is because that is where the 1272 is, and that is, it's roughly where the 1272 is, and that is where I see a lot of price action going on. So that would be my first price target. I said by October 17th because I was basing a lot of my theory on what was going to happen after the Ethereum merge and what Ravencoin would do after that. So honestly, I think that that is debunked now. I don't think it's going to happen. I do think that this is more realistic, what we're going to see here for Ravencoin. A more realistic price target. Now that the Ethereum merge is over with, all the news is done. If you're just looking at charts, the most realistic thing that could happen is to get the breakout at the 74% line. And then we'd take quite a while to get up to this $1.60 range. One other thing that I do see is we are following a trend here. We do have a bottom trend going. So we've got this bottom trend line here. Let's make it white. And then we've got a top trend line here. And so we're creating this rising broadening wedge, which can be a bearish pattern. It depends on if we get a breakout to the upside again. You know, it depends on, you know, that could determine whether or not we come back up here. But now that I think that we're probably going to get a breakout here, I'm honestly leaning about 50-50. So 50-50 of me says we're going to get that big push to the upside, get above the 618 again, and then we can kind of just start moving our way, you know, something like that. We get a breakout early. It happens. You know, you don't always get it right at 74% of the time, but that's the average. So it could happen earlier. You never know. But the other 50% of me says that we're going to get something like this, and then we're going to fall through, and then we're going to get something like that, and then we're going to fall through. And we might not even touch the bottom here. It's just going to be a fake out to the bottom. Then we're going to start making our way back up and get that breakout more towards the time period of around 74%. That's pretty much what I've got for Ravencoin after just doing a little bit more deep dive. This seems very realistic, unless the only thing that can change this entire thing is if we get this move like we had back here, the big move back up above the 618. This one even took us above the 382, and then we, you know, I mean, this was a big move that happened all within like 60 days or something like that. So from the point we're at right now, you know, to when the top came in, that was 2,200%, and it only took 35 days. So let's say something like that happened from where we're at right now. Took 35 days. 2,200% would put us at 35 days. 2,200 would put us around 70 cents. So, I mean, if that were to play out, I do think that that is, I don't know, I'm going to say 50% chance, just like 50% chance that I mean, that would be that move that we actually get the breakout. I still think that it's kind of iffy right now. There's no real news catalyst. We've got some interesting stuff happening with Bitcoin. It's not able to make it above 20,000. The DXY, which I'm just going to go show you here really quick before we're done. DXY is pushing this resistance here. And if the DXY breaks through that resistance, yeah, 50% scenario to the downside is more likely in that scenario. So if the DXY can actually break above this resistance that we're at right now, which it's been trying, here's 1 week, what are we on, days? 1 day, 2 day, 3 day, and it's pushing. Let's see if we have any, you know, anything good happening here. So When the DXY topped out back here, it topped out right at this orange line that I've drawn out here, right around 80 on the RSI. And we are just about to reach 80 on the RSI, probably today or tomorrow. Depending on if it continues to keep pushing at this top here, there's a good chance we reach 80 today or tomorrow. The good news on that is if we do reach 80 and we do get a rejection, even if we come back down to the 112 range, which is the heart line here, even if we come back down to that, Bitcoin and all the rest of crypto will start seeing a little bit of a move. And so that might catapult us to a move with a lot of these coins. The better news would be if we came down to the heart line and then we fell all the way through again and we lined up with the bottom of this channel. And the best news would be if we fell through and then continued on our way to the downside. That would be the best news, but we're going to have to just wait and see. I do think within the next few days, we're going to find out what the DXY is going to do right here, and this is going to determine the direction of the crypto market. So pay attention to the DXY, and then you've got what I got for Ravencoin. I do think that, you know, decent chance we break out at the beginning of the year, and then that would lead us probably a year or two of, you know, finally a little bit of bullish momentum getting us up to hopefully our price target way up here. First price target around 60 cents. Anyway, that's what I got. If you like what you saw here, please like or tap that like button, whatever you got to do. Share this with your friends. And remember, I'm not a financial advisor, just a dude on his computer. Talk to you later.